Sam, the director. I think it was Sting, the Police lead singer and bass player. He had a solo career after the Police, and he had a song, which is a very good song, tremendous production. They don't make songs like this anymore. Today everything is like chick-chack. The song was, if you love somebody, set them free. And it's a very, very interesting concept. If you love somebody, set them free. We like to love something, we like to possess things, to hold on to them. We don't like to let go. But that's not love of the someone. Usually is the love of yourself and the fear of letting go. You see it a lot in interaction between parents and children. Listen, I'm a child, sweet child of mine. I'm a child, and I'm a parent as well. So right now I'm able to see things from both angles. However, when you remove yourself from those angles, because now I can see things as a parent, I forgot what I was as a child. Many times you hear people saying, well, I can't believe I just said that, because if my parents would have said it to me, I would throw a fit, right? So you need to remove yourself out of it and look at a situation the way it is. And that is, when the Gemara says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world on blima, it means it's in suspension on a thread of balance. The world has to be balanced. Your actions have to be balanced. Your life has to be balanced. Everything has to be balanced. It can't be too much to do extremes. It has to be balanced. So how do I reach this balance between being a child and being a parent? And that's the mistake that many people make. In many societies, parents are very restrictive of their children. They don't allow the child self-expression, self-exploration, and that in return creates a problem, because the more you restrict them, the more they bounce out. So if we had the age of the 50s with McCarthyism and so on and so forth, the whole environment around that, as a knee-jerk reaction for that, we had the 60s and 70s. And then, I'm afraid about the knee-jerk reaction to that, because that wave is it's going there, but you see it slightly diminishing with the rise of the radical right and so on and so forth in many places in the world. So when you have a very restrictive relationship with parents and a child, what you're creating is what we said before, you're creating bonsai kids. And bonsai, you ask me how to make a bonsai. They take a tree, they take a sapling of whatever that is, where, as I said to you before, I think bonsai is a very cruel practice. Everybody talks about, PETA has a whole campaign in the city and all over about animals and so on. Now, how about trees? Let me ask you, let's just stop 1 second. Let's just go to this now. I gotta get out of my system, as they say. How about flowers? Don't you think it's cruel to kill flowers? You have a wedding or you have something. Why do you have to kill thousands of flowers and then the next day, the next day, at the end of the night, you throw it in the garbage? Don't you think it's cruel? I think it's a crazy practice, and we have to stop with it. Besides, it's tremendous waste of resources. If anything, get a plant. My mother-in-law, when we got married in Israel, but my mother-in-law did a reception for us here also when we came for the honeymoon, so-called, and I'm still officially on a honeymoon. Instead of having flowers, she had African violets for all the women that came there. So I thought it was a very nice thing. I had some of those African violets that lasted for me, like years. 7 years after, 10 years after, I still have African violets for my party. So what do? They take a sapling. They, first of all, trim the roots. And then they place it in a container. It starts to grow. they keep the moisture there, they cut the roots again, they cut the roots again. But it's not only cutting the roots. After the trees start to develop, and we're talking about, there is a bonsai tree, which is considered to be a treasure of Japan. I think the tree is over 500 or 600 years old. So what they do later on, they take wire and they bend the branches, in a certain way to, according to the interpretation of the bonsai artist, to give it the most beautiful appearance. So they twist it, they deform it. Imagine, for example, I would deform you. I would put your hands in bars like this, to deform you. How would you feel? And then they burn, sometimes with sulfite or with, to create certain scars on the tree to look as it was, exposed to the elements and so on and so forth. And we, many times, by restricting the growth of the child, neglecting the stages of separation, the 8 stages of separation that Erickson brings, in order to be able to develop into a healthy human being, we develop bonsai. They look good. Our kids look good. But they're incapable of growth and developing root systems, developing height, might, and because of that, spreading on to the future. Because if you have an oak tree that is, let's say, like 300 years old, you know how high this thing can get? I mean, one time I walked with your brother, when I used to walk with your brother in the morning, they cut an oak tree that basically fell over there in the corner, I think, one of the corners over there. And there was a big storm and the oak tree fell. I mean, I've never seen such a wide oak tree. You probably needed about 2 people to hold hands like this around it. So I went with your brother and we counted the rings on the stump of the tree. I mean, we didn't count, we kind of missed, I'm sure, here and there, but we counted I remember, over 120 rings. This thing was awesome. So what happened? It grows high, and because it grows high, it has the little nuts, right? So what happened? Because it's high, it spreads up more. It spreads up more. Now there is a whole colony of oak trees because of the widespread of the branches of the tree. However, when you develop a bonsai, what's the spread of the bonsai tree? If it gives any nuts at all, or the acorns, or whatever you call this, nothing. I mean, what? A foot in diameter? That bonsai that I told you is 500 years old is something this big. That's it. If you would have taken it in nature, you know how big this thing would have gotten, a mammoth. Look at the red trees or the sequoia trees in Northern California, in Oregon. They're ginormous. Because they're ginormous because they were allowed to grow free. I'm not saying unsupervised. Because even a forest, you have to understand, you need to maintain a forest. You can allow overgrowth, you have to, and so on and so forth. There won't be fires and etc. So you need to supervise the growth of the child, but you should not restrict it, because then what happens? We restrict the child, right? So we have this beautiful bonsai kid. And now let's say he's in his 20s, I guess be 23, 24. The parents are saying, the parents until this point did not allow him to do anything. He didn't pick up a towel home, did not pick his socks, mommy did his laundry, mommy fixed his bed, mommy changed his sheets, daddy made decisions for him, etc., etc., etc. It just had to be. All of a sudden, he's getting 23, 24. The parents are saying, excuse me, don't you think you have to go to work? Don't you think you have to get married? Get married, get out of the house. Get married, get out of the house. Get married, get out of the house. All of a sudden the kid says, one second, hey, what's going on here? Why are you pushing me out? All my life I was here. I'm not ready to go to work. And you know what happens? He's not ready to go to work. So it makes a wrong decision about where to go to work, how to go to work. They make decisions for him all along. They told him which school to go to, which profession to pick. Then they let him explore. Because for them, ultimately, it wasn't what's really best for the kid. It's what they could show up more. It's a showcase. And then the kid is, okay, I'm going to get married. He doesn't know how to get married. He doesn't know how to, how to interact appropriately, with people, and especially with the woman. Then they have problems. And then what happens when he gets married? All of a sudden, oh, we raised you all these years. Now you don't come to visit us. We'll come every Shabbat. Now you pushed him out in order to have him back in, restrict him. Every Shabbat he has to, put his card in, stamp his card in, coming in, coming out. When are you going to spend some time with your wife? Oh, that's how we do it in our family. That's how we do it in our congregation. That's how we do it in our people. That's a crack of you know what. That's not how we do things. Who's we, Kimosabi? What does it mean? That's not how we do it. That's how you incompetent people do it. Because what? Let me tell you why is that. Because you are afraid to be alone with your wife, or you are afraid to be alone with your husband. Because you're going to realize that all these years you had nothing to talk about. You cannot stand each other, and it was superficial. You played a good show, so you cannot allow to be there alone. You never develop your relationship either, and you're going to make sure that your child is going to be as miserable as you. So you need to break that cycle. You need to break that cycle, because otherwise you're not going to be even as good as your parents or as bad as your parents. It's going to be worse. Because one thing for sure, your parents were as spoiled as you. They had to struggle, they have to do this, they have to do that, and so on and so forth. So they kind of toughened them up. So that's a very bad thing to do. If you want to have a solid kid, let him have self-expression. Accept the fact, if your kid, for example, does not want to be a dentist, lawyer, accountant, and now, in our crowds is OT, PT, speech, speech not so much, but, nurse and so on and so forth. It's a good profession. It makes a lot of money. You know what you could do with a good profession? You can't even clean yourself with it. He wants to be a philosopher. So let him be. That's what he wants to be. Your kid wants to become a photographer. Let him become a photographer. Your kid wants to become a ski instructor. Let him become a ski instructor. What do you care? If he came to you and he says to you, Pops, what do you think I should do? I'm debating between this and this. You can tell him, and says, listen, this is a good thing. This is also good. This is a little better. However, ultimately it's your life, not my life. You need to know what you want to do, not what I want to do. But you as a parent cannot deal with the fact that you did not live up to what you wanted to do. And you're always going to excuse, well, I had to make parnasa for you guys, so therefore I sacrificed this for you. Well, first of all, nobody asked you to sacrifice. You know what, Dad? With all due respect, we would have rather you not sacrifice that and be a much happier person, because you rotten spoiled us. In order to compensate for your lack of ability to be there for us, or your lack of courage to do what you wanted to do, you spoiled us rotten. You sent us on vacations that we didn't need. You gave us bad habits that we should not have had. You bribed us. We would have rather have you as a happy person than to have you trying to live our life, your life, through us. And that's something you need to understand. You don't have to go to every family occasion. Okay, I understand it. Somebody close gets married, a cousin gets married, it's fine. Okay, whatever. But bar mitzvahs, your grandmother's birthday, so who cares about these things? What are we, a tribe here? Pocahontas, what is this thing? Grow up already. I understand. If you are a 10-year-old, 12 years old, 13 years old, you don't want to be left unsupervised. You might set the house on fire. But you're a big boy now. You're a big boy. in one hand, your parents want you to get married, to be a man, and the other hand, they treat you like a baby. Now, that makes one screwed up kid. Now, you want to be screwed up? No. So you do something about it. First of all, start to get in touch with who you are and what you want to be, without the approval of society that lingers over your head like a black shadow, like a black cloud. Society does not care about you. Oh, people would look at me. You got to know that people don't look at you. It's just an excuse that you make all the time. A story that you tell all the time, a story that you tell yourself all the time as an excuse to avoid the question is, what is it I really want to do? What do I really want in my life? That's an excuse. You use our society, this, everybody. That's just an excuse. That does not fly. Do you want to have your life? Well, uproot yourself from the bonsai tree and go plant yourself into a real forest. Start giving some nutrients to yourself and start growing and developing. That's all I have to say to you today. Have a nice day.